downtown Oxnard is a unique collection of turn-of-the-century buildings that have been relocated and restored from the surrounding Oxnard Plain. The buildings were originally built during the period from 1877 to 1912 and were chosen for their historic significance. A project was developed through the Elite Theater Company, a small community organization housed in the Pettit Playhouse at Heritage Square. The project is called Discovering the Past Through Oral Histories of Heritage Square Families. It consists of interviews with members of families of several of the homes of Heritage Square. The interviews were structured to obtain information about how the families interacted with the land and other members of the community and how they experienced and contributed to historical events that ultimately shaped the present-day Oxnard Plain. The oral interviews were recorded either on video or audio tape. The interviews were then transferred to VHS videotape and DVD-R video and were additionally transcribed to written form. The interviews were conducted by the Friends of Heritage Square, a volunteer group of people dedicated to preserving and sharing the history of the Oxnard Plain. This video presentation provides an overview of the interviews that were conducted for this project. The Filer Ranch House was built around 1877 at 1908 Rice Road on land known as La Colonia. It was built for Louis and Caroline Filer and is designed in the Italianate style, with 2,850 square feet of living space. The front and side porches featured arched and filigreed wood designs, and there are curved windows and eave brackets. Wings were added to the house to accommodate a growing family, and the porch, which now fronts the beauty salon, was not originally enclosed. This home is the oldest house at Heritage Square. 3 of Louis Filer's grandchildren, Barbara Shuley, Ed Filer, and Emil Sonny Filer, sat down for an interview conducted by Tom Van Almen and Flora B. Stratus in Somis on May 5, 2003. Ed tells the story of their old Model A Ford and how they used donkeys to get it started.
It's a big culprit, but we take the 2 donkeys out and hook them to the front of the Ford, trying to get it started, towing it to get it started, you know, and that was a lot of fun. you try to get the thing started when at the speed of a donkey, and it's not very easy to start a vehicle, and so he decided that, well, we make that donkey move, you know, they were a little stubborn, so they built a fire underneath the donkey. He's going to get his belly singed, and so he's going to move, and so he moved, the donkey moved enough to get the fire right under the car. So then they had to get the fire out before it started the car on fire.
Ed also remembers the water tower, which is standing in Heritage Square today, and describes a water tank that was placed next to it.
The water tower was kind of a center of attraction in the summertime because my dad had got a water tank. I think he got it from my uncle, and he put it right alongside the water tower, and he filled it up with water. It was about 14 feet wide and about, I think it was 4 feet deep, something like that. He filled it up with water. We had a swimming pool, and of course when they first filled it up, we'd want to get in there, but it was awful cold. But it became one of the most popular summertime activities for us, as well as a lot of the people in town, you know, the kids in town. We used to climb up on the tower of the water tank and get about halfway up and then dive into the tank. And that's the water tank that is in the Heritage Square there now.
The Justin Pettit Ranch House was built in 1896. It was originally located at 1900 East Woolley Road in Oxnard. The home was built for Justin Pettit and his wife Frances and their 6 children. Their 7th child was born after they moved into the home. This home is referred to architecturally as the crowning jewel of Heritage Square. It is an elegant and exquisite example of a Queen Anne home, with an irregular roofline, an abundance of rich wood detailing, a pointed tower, and delicate spindle and spool work on the verandas. It has beaded columns with rare curved glass and colored flash glass panes in the front windows. Today, with the added basement, the house has 7,100 square feet of interior space and has 13 rooms, 7 of those being bedrooms. Justin Pettit's grandson, David Donnellan, was interviewed by Diane Suskin and Connie Korenstein on April 12, 2003, in the Moldhart Storehouse in Heritage Square. David recounts memories of his grandfather sitting in the center room, sometimes referred to as the back parlor.
Well, Grandpa lived very close to us. We lived one road south on Dempsey Road, so we spent a lot of time there. And I remember him as a child. He sat in a big wing chair by the fireplace in the center room, not the parlor, but the center room. And we'd always go over and shake his hand, and he'd reach in his pocket and pull out a bunch of pennies and dimes and matches and say, "Take your choice." And we'd sort through for the biggest one, obviously.
David also tells of his trips to the Carnegie Library when he was a child. The Carnegie Library, with City Hall and a jail downstairs, was built in 1906 and still stands today in its original location. It currently houses the Carnegie Art Museum.
Yes, the Carnegie Library was, when we were in school.
Mm-hmm. And was it all library then? Because
It was
I know
all-
at one point
well,
City Hall was downstairs.
City Hall was downstairs.
It was
Yeah.
then when you were young. Mm-hmm.
And that was the city government. They could get into a very small area.
The Fry Putney House was originally built at 201 South C Street in 1903. It was built for Abraham Fry, who came to Oxnard from Ohio. This was one of the first houses actually built in the city instead of being moved to it from another location, as many houses were in those days. This charming Queen Anne-style home with a bell tower was built as Abraham's retirement home when he was 62 years old. The tower includes a roof called a witch's cap. The house has a diamond-paned window in the dormer window in the front and a palladium window on the left side. There is a narrow clapboard siding on the ground floor, but shingle siding on the second story. There also are paired eave brackets and a concrete porch with classic columns. Debbie Koskas was interviewed in Oxnard on April 28, 2003. Her great-grandparents, Charles M. Sickles and Louise Fletcher Sickles, resided in the Fry House for 2 years. She tells of her great-grandfather's roles setting up the first telephone exchange system in early Oxnard and installing the first electric light in the lighthouse at Port Hueneme.
He set up the first telephone exchange system in Oxnard, and he was contracted by their phone system to do that. He was a manager of a phone exchange system in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I guess he had a reputation, and they contacted him to come out and set it up here, so he moved, he and his wife out here. And that was in, I think, around like 1900. He put the first electric light in the Port Hueneme Lighthouse. Before that it was gas. And he installed electric light. I don't remember the year that occurred, but I do remember seeing an article about that my grandmother had saved, and my grandmother talked about it a lot. So, that's something that I kind of feel proud about, that I have family that had a lot to do with kind of the beginnings of Oxnard as an incorporated city.
The Patterson-Hartveld House was built in 1905 on the corner of Woolley and Patterson Roads in Oxnard. Wealthy New York rancher John D. Patterson had the house built for his ranch manager John Roop. Later, Peter Hartveld, a native of Holland, came to this country and found work at the Patterson Ranch. He became foreman in 1908, and he and his family moved into the house in 1917. The house is a 3,000 square foot colonial revival style, with a bell-cast hip roofline, which is repeated in miniature on a small dormer window. The front classical-style porch was originally made of wood, and there are Corinthian columns. The house has paired brackets under the eaves with narrow clapboard siding and diamond-shaped shingles under the side gables. Those interviewed were Priscilla Hivner and Ida Kyle, two of the 6 children of Peter and Anna Vandergolf Hartveld. The interview took place in Oxnard on September 4, 2003, and was conducted by Tom Van Almen and Diane Suskin. Priscilla recalls the fun they had as children with the animals on their ranch.
A little donkey, Bethia rode the donkey, and we had a small horse, Queenie, and now I could ride those things too, but I was scared of them, so I did it as little as possible. But she was more like a tomboy. She had lots of fun.
Ida describes the manner of transportation she used when going to grammar school.
I went to school at Haydock Grammar School, which was the corner of Woolley and C Street. And we didn't always have any kind of transportation. We actually had a horse and buggy, which part of the time, if we weren't walking to school, we rode in the buggy. which was a lot better than walking.
The Gordon Ranch House was built in 1910. Its original location was at 2151 Woolley Road in Oxnard. This home is a craftsman style with 2,836 square feet. It was built for Alonzo and Sarah Wood Gordon on 200 acres inherited from her father, William O. Wood. It has an unusual steep pitched gabled roof, which comes down to the porch area in the front. It has exposed beams in the front of the house, and there is a sleeping porch at the front on the second story. There are recessed porches on the first level of the front and on the north side. The brickwork is new but resembles the original. The house also has narrow clapboard siding, sash windows, and 2 chimneys. Sarah and Alonzo Gordon had 5 granddaughters. One of the granddaughters, Lois, is deceased. The other 4 sat down for an interview in the city of Glendale, California on March 17, 2003. The granddaughters described how they played church when they were young children.
But our grandparents were very religious. We spent a lot of time going to church.
And playing church.
And then there was an organ upstairs in one of the bedrooms. And we used to all get together and play church. She was the minister. And my sister Lois was the pianist. She could play the piano, that's why.
Pump organ.
She was the pump organ, and Gail still has the pump organ. And then the 3 of us would be outside in the house, in the upper story, and we would file into church, and we had the chairs, and we sang and sang. Lois played the organ. And giggled. Mainly giggled because it was pretty
Didn't
silly.
we dress up? Well, and we probably wore Grandma's old clothes and hats and purses and thought we were the cat's meow.
They also tell how they played in the walnut trees on the ranch.
The other thing we did is we would climb the walnut trees. Along the road there leading to the house were about 5 or 6, 7 walnut trees, and 5 of us would each select a walnut tree. And we'd climb up, and that would be our house. Did we go visit each other?
The Connolly House was built in 1912 by Albert C. Martin, who also designed Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles and the Ventura County Courthouse building on Poli Street in Ventura. The original location was at 2121 West Gonzales Road in Oxnard. It contained 2,295 square feet and was a 2-story house of the Craftsman and Prairie style. It had a 2nd-story recessed sleeping porch and balcony. During hot weather, the family would sleep outside. A notable characteristic of the house is the 2-story slanted bay window. An audio interview of the 2 granddaughters of Archie and Eliza Connolly, Carolyn Midge Curtis Burian and Catherine Connie Berdillis, shown in this picture, was conducted by Judy Beatles and Flora B. Stratus on March 27, 2003 in Oxnard. Joe and Pearl Lamb Connolly were their parents. Joe was born in 1885, the 4th child of Archie and Eliza. Both women were born and raised in Oxnard. They describe what they did for recreation when they were younger.
Played cards, rode the horses. We did a lot more outside than our kids do nowadays because we didn't have the TVs and all those things that they relate to, but our activities were all pretty much outside and in the yard, helping around the house and what have you like.
The final interview is one of Audrey Coda, Bonnie Armstrong, and Virginia Handing, 3 daughters of one of the workers in the Oxnard sugar beet factory. The interview was conducted by Modena Kramer and Carol Puerto on April 30, 2003 in the city of Oxnard. Although their father did not live in any of the Heritage Square houses, it is included in this project because of the significant role the factory has in the history of the city of Oxnard. The city was named after Henry Oxnard, one of the Oxnard brothers, who came to the area and built a sugar beet factory right in the middle of the sugar beet fields that were planted by the original pioneer farming families of the area, headed up by Albert Moldhart and Ed Borchard. When the sugar beet factory opened in 1898, 5,000 sacks of sugar were produced each day, with each sack weighing 100 pounds. The factory made its own electricity, and there was a train track that went straight into the factory to pick up the sugar and deliver it to the markets. The sugar beet factory was very important to the city, and 5 years after it opened, there were 700 people working there from all over the world. The factory was near where Woolley Road meets Saviors Road in Oxnard, and part of the original building remains standing today. The daughters tell about their experience going to the movies and winning a bicycle.
Movies. Great movie fans.
For a dime.
Tell me, what do you
For a
remember?
dime.
Oh my, you name it, we saw it. What was your favorite?
Well, I don't know, but the thing that I remember the most, I won a bicycle. They would give away
On
a
a Friday
bicycle
night.
on Friday evenings, and one night my girlfriend and I went to the movies, and they drew my name. I was so thrilled. You could either get the bicycle that was sitting there, or you could order a girl's bicycle. I couldn't wait to have that girl's bicycle, so I took the one that was there in the lobby,
Which was a boy's.
and rode it home, and my girlfriend's mother and father followed me so I'd be safe getting home. Then
And
my
that was
dad would
That was
cut,
the only bicycle we ever had.
we ever had.
wasn't it? Well, did
My
he-
dad cut it down so it would
So
be,
it'd be a girl's
Yeah.
He could weld. Everything else he did, he welded.
They also describe what the factory smelled like when it was processing sugar from the sugar beets.
Bread or something.
An open field in front of us, between
Right.
us and the factory.
Uh-huh.
Down further.
You could see the factory then,
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
right there.
You could also see.
Could you
the-
smell it?
Yes.
Oh, and it
yes.
smelled so good.
Was it sweet?
Yes.
Because the kids
Yes.
ask us this.
Well, the
A lot
kids
of people-
didn't like most of the school children didn't
like
like
it.
the smell of the
Yeah.
factory when it was operating.
I loved
and
it
it
myself.
operated in the fall.
All interviews in their complete form are available to those interested in learning more about the families who lived in the homes of Heritage Square. Videos of the complete interviews, audio tapes, photos, and transcripts of the interviews are available to all docents and visitors of Heritage Square. Copies of this video have been provided to local public libraries. For information about accessing these materials, contact the Friends of Heritage Square, 715 South A Street, Oxnard, California, 93030. The phone number is 805-483-7960.